legit.
Hey, what's up guys? Marky Mark, Gym and Nutrition, Got a Blast Boy, back at it with another video. Today we, as you can see, are doing a kind of a different video. We're doing a podcast today. And we're not just doing any podcast, we're doing a podcast about the NL Central Division. Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, I just want to preface this, we are Cardinal fans. So we'll try as hard as we can not to be biased, but it's really hard whenever we're diehard Cardinal fans. As you notice, this dude to my left is
Colton. I'll probably be doing a lot of the numbers and the stats for the channel, especially for this podcast. I like to analyze the game. I'm very much a numbers guy, so yeah.
And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing like each team in a different episode. Like this time we're going to do the Cardinals. The next time we could do like the Cubs or the Brewers, and then just so on. And then we're just going to do all of the National League Central Division teams. So first thing we want to talk about is just like the Cardinals in general and like their farm system. Because that's always the first thing, a good thing to start with, is like their minor league team and how they're doing. So the Cardinals have a really, really good minor league team. If you remember last season, they won 91 games in their league, and the next highest was 80 games.
Right.
So they won 11 more games than
the next best
team
right.
in the league, which is insane. So why are the Cardinals not winning World Series every single year?
Well, I think it all goes back to maturity level. The difference between the major leagues and the minor leagues is a big jump. So if you look at the difference between a minor league player and a major league player, it all boils down to maturity. And we can already see that there's maturity problems with, like, even Carlos Martinez, who's been in the major leagues for a long time. He just didn't have that time in the minor leagues to fully develop, and he's kind of finding his stride now. So
yeah, and we have, hopefully, we're definitely hopeful for the future with all these young guys, because
future's bright.
Yeah, especially with all these young guys, and it's also like good for like blue chip prospects and use them for like trades.
Oh yeah, use them for trade bait. Every team wants some blue chip, pitching prospects. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, with the farm system out of the way, we'll go ahead and move on to the Cardinals, and like we're gonna talk about the basics first, and we're gonna talk a little bit about first the additions to the Cardinals, players and coaches. The coaches including Jose Oquendo, Mike Maddox, and Willie McGee, just three of them that have been added to the Cardinal list. So Jose Oquendo coming back from knee surgery, which is really good
right.
with our defensive
aspect of the game.
Yeah.
I could see Oquendo taking a player like Colton Wong, who has shown flashes of being this great defensive player, making, diving plays, all the way in center field. He's a second baseman, and he's covering that much territory, making these spectacular plays. Where he struggles is the routine ground ball. And I could see Oquendo working with Colton on how to, field that routine ground ball, and, Colton will keep doing those fantastic plays. So I could see him, working with someone like that. Also, a player that I'm very high on, Jose Martinez. I could see him turning Jose Martinez from a negative defensive player to a positive defensive player. So,
and you can also say the same thing about Willie McGee, who will be working a lot with like the outfielders and like Marcell Ozuna, Tommy Pham, even Jose Martinez if they want to keep him out in the outfield.
Right.
And all the other plethora of outfielders that we have.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it a little difficult to figure out what the lineup's supposed to be with like 6 outfielders, but hey, we got it. They're gonna figure it out.
It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Better have too much than not enough. So, and then Mike Maddox, who will be the pitching coach for next year. And how do you feel about him?
So I personally am not a huge Maddox fan. I don't really have a reason why. It's not a number or anything like that. I just don't think he's a huge improvement over what we had last season. So my hopes are high, but I'm also looking I'm being realistic about the situation as well. So
Yep, it'll all happen in spring training, getting used to, you don't just get used to players, you also get used to the coaches, and I feel like that will be a big thing with like the pitchers and everything.
Right.
They seem to be gelling pretty well together.
Right.
For everything that I've heard from pitchers and catchers in their meeting, they've done really well together. So hopes are high. So.
Right.
All right. Then now we're going to go on to the addition of the players. And the first one we're going to talk about is the closer, Luke Gregerson.
So the way I feel about Gregerson, he's an older guy. He's been in the major leagues for a while. And past season he struggled, and then the season before that he did okay. Even early on in last season he did pretty well, if I'm not mistaken. It was just that last half where he kind of struggled. So I'm thinking that he has potential to be a good closing pitcher. However, I think that, as the case with every player, I think, it's possible that Father Time has caught up to him and his numbers are just going to start declining. I believe that his numbers will come back and he'll have a good season. So
I think one thing that is really good is that we actually have a closer now.
Right.
We don't have like 6 people fighting for a closing spot.
Right.
Which, I mean, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely better to have
more defined roles.
Yes, have more defined roles as the closer spot. So that's always good. And hopefully he does well. Next one we got is Jason Mott, who signed to a minor league contract just about a few days ago.
Right.
We got him back.
Right.
So how do you feel about that?
My take on Jason Mott, he's 35 years old. Back in 2011, he was our closing pitcher, the year that we won the World Series.
2011.
Yep. And so, obviously he has had that skill. And I do like Mott's mentality. Mott was always he had to win. That was his mentality. He had the mentality of a winner. And so while I think it's unlikely that he'll make an appearance at the major league level, really any point for the rest of his career, I do hope that he does do well in the minor leagues, and it would be awesome if he did get his major league shot. I just don't see that really happening at 35 years old.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like, you have those 4 or 5 years of good baseball years.
Quality years.
Yes, because the beginning's always rough, and then the end's always rough. It's that middle part that you have to find.
Right.
And I feel like Jason Mott has already found that spot.
Right.
And now he's on that downhill part.
Right. I mean, that was 2011 for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
That was a fun year to watch.
Oh, it was. It was a really fun year.
All right. Next we have Bud Norris, and I heard that you liked him.
I like the acquisition of Bud Norris. The way I feel about Bud Norris is very much like, I like that he's a versatile pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
You can either have him start or you can have him be a closer if you need him to do that. He could probably be even a long relief pitcher if you need him to be that. Eat up some innings and stuff if that's what you need him to do.
And it's always good to have him in that chance to be in a starting rotation, especially with that 5th guy that we don't really know who it is supposed to be.
Right.
Like, we always have that opening spot.
Well,
like we have
with as many question marks we have in the starting rotation, like, is Adam Wainwright's arm going to hold up? Is Miles Mikolas going to be what he was whenever he was in the major leagues, or what he was whenever he was with Japan? Is Luke Weaver, was his season last year just an anomaly? You have all those question marks, and I think that having an established pitcher like Bud Norris, who could be a starting pitcher, and he has done the starting pitcher thing, I think that's a very big asset.
Man, I love baseball.
Oh, so do I.
I love the human aspect. You try to put math into it and just doesn't work.
Oh, yeah.
There's
intangibles. There's
intangibles. Human beings, and you just never know. That's why I love it so much. All right. The big guy. The one that we got in December. Feels like forever ago, but we got him. Marcell Ozuna.
So my thoughts on Marcell Ozuna are a little bit unpopular. The Cardinals kept saying that they want this big bat, they want this big bat, they want this big bat. And while, yes, Ozuna did have a really good season last season, if you look at his career numbers, he's traditionally like a 260 average hitter, and he'll hit, a decent amount of home runs. But if you actually compare him to Stephen Piscotty, who we've had, and we were complaining about last season, and wasn't performing to our standard, even got sent down to AAA, didn't he? Mm-hmm. We were very frustrated with him. If you look at Piscotty's career numbers, his career batting average and everything, pretty similar to Ozuna's. Ozuna has more pop. He'll hit more home runs. But I think that with the acquisition of Ozuna, we're getting a player that's very similar to Piscotty. And so that's why I say, if you're saying, he's going to be our big difference maker, he's not really that big difference maker unless he is what he was last season.
The only thing that I really like about it is I like him in the lineup as, like, a spot where you can put people around him.
Right.
Because, like, the pitcher's mind and the other team's mind is to try to pitch around Ozuna, and then you put the other players around him, and they should be, you would think, numbers-wise, they will do well.
Right.
That's what you would think. But I just hope that pans
my
out
biggest
for him.
my biggest thing to kind of throw back at you is, look at what Dexter Fowler did whenever he came to St. Louis. Whenever he was a Cub, he was great. Came to St. Louis, and now he's not performing to what I would like for him to perform. He had a career number of home runs last season, but still, his batting average just wasn't there, and I'm afraid that's going to be the same situation with Ozuna.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, additions out of the way. Let's start talking about some of the starting pitchers in the starting rotation. First, with the ace, in quotation marks. He should be the ace as long as he performs like he should perform, and he should be able to perform, Carlos Martinez.
Yeah, Carlos Martinez, my only issues that I have with Carlos Martinez is, first off, that first inning. You mentioned that to me whenever we were talking privately. That first inning is always it can be rough for Martinez, and I feel like if he can mature where if someone does get a hit on him in that first inning, it doesn't just eat him up. It doesn't just make him frustrated and everything like that. But I also think that Martinez's biggest deal is he experienced too high highs and too low lows. A mature player just stays right in the middle. Even when things are going good, they're not super happy about it, and whenever things are going bad, they're not super upset about it. And I think that comes with maturity, and I'm hoping that Martinez is kind of matured enough now to.
And he also did have some defensive issues that he needs to work on in spring training and this year, because he did have some defensive issues. Not really any of them in particular that I can think of, but I know he did have defensive issues, and that was a reason why he was struggling so much last season. But I saw that Tommy Pham, in quotes, Martinez will have 20 wins this season. That's what Tommy Pham said about Martinez. I feel like if he's able to get through those first inning troubles and actually be a mature pitcher, it's definitely not infeasible.
Yeah, no, he's very physically capable, and he shows glimpses of being a very dominant pitcher. So I mean, if he does mature and he does, keep a cool head on his shoulders, I think that definitely he could be a 20-win pitcher. Yeah. I think that he could very easily be like a younger Adam Wainwright. I could see him being kind of that level of pitcher, really.
When you have the best catcher in baseball, that helps too.
Yeah.
Having a guy like Yachty to trust back there, that's definitely not impossible.
It's not impossible.
All right. So next we have Michael Wacha. Michael Wacha is kind of like last year. He was hit or miss. He was either doing really well or he was struggling a lot. He was riding that struggle bus.
Right. Well, Michael Wacha's biggest issue was, he'd see the lineup first two times and he'd be great. It's whenever the lineup saw him that third time around where, they started teeing off on him. And I just think that, I don't know what it is, if it's maybe something with, he can't go that deep or what, but I'm hoping he kind of matures or he does something different with his pitching motion or something like that where that doesn't happen. Because that's going to be the big problem with Wacha. That's been the problem with Wacha before, is that, that third time around the lineup is whenever they just start teeing off on him.
Yep. And then next we have a unique situation with Adam Wainwright, because he is coming up on his last year of his contract. So Wainwright's got to be thinking in his head, what am I supposed to be thinking about right now? Like, what is he thinking about?
Right. Well, Adam Wainwright is the former ace for the Cardinals. If I'm Adam Wainwright, I'm kind of giving up on that ace mentality, thinking that he's going to be the ace. And, he even said as recently as, last year he thinks he still got it, and he still thinks this year he's still got it. But I just don't think he's that ace level pitcher that he used to be. He's getting older. Again, he's fighting father time. I do see Wainwright, if his arm is strengthened up. I mean, that was his problem last year. His arm kind of gave out on him. If his arm is strengthened up, I could see him pitching to a mid-3s ERA. And another thing that I'd like to address is, even though Adam Wainwright's arm was hurt last season, he still had the best win percentage of any Cardinal pitcher in the rotation. So,
Yep.
Even though his ERA didn't reflect it, whenever he's on the mound, the Cardinals do win.
Yep.
So,
one thing that I really like is he has the ace mentality. He's competitive.
right.
And he critiques himself more than anyone else critiques him.
Right.
He's hard on himself, which necessarily might not be a good thing, but it is a good thing at the same time. And
Right.
it's good to be able to critique yourself, and he does that a lot, and he works really hard trying to stay in that starting rotation.
I personally feel that to me, the ace mentality is that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be clearly the most dominant pitcher in this rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Adam Wainwright should give up on that mentality, just for the sole fact that, look, you have Michael Wacha, who I believe by the end of the season could be the best pitcher on our team.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Weaver, who threw 2 complete games last season as a rookie, and you have Carlos Martinez, who's currently the ace, so he's obviously doing pretty well. So I just think that what I'm saying is I think that Wainwright should give up on that and just focus on being an effective pitcher, pitching that low ERA and getting those wins. So
as long as he keeps those wins up, that's all you can ask for.
That's all you can ask for.
Yep. And then we have Lance Lynch type player, Miles Mikolas. He came from Japan. Well, he didn't come from Japan, but he played in Japan for the past 3 years, and now he's the Lizard King in St. Louis.
Right.
What do you got on him?
So my hopes for Miles Mikolas is not very high. I just find it peculiar that he had, I think, 2 seasons in the major leagues or something like that.
Yep.
Pitched horrible ERA.
Then he played for the Texas Rangers. I'm pretty sure
he did play for the Rangers. Then he had 2 or 3 seasons in Japan. Had an excellent ERA, and now he's coming back. And they say that Japan's major leagues is kind of equivalent to our version of AAA, the minor leagues. And so, you hope that he'd keep those numbers, but it's not necessarily always going to be true. Yep. So
one thing that what the Cardinals are going to be looking for from him is him throwing strikes and chewing up innings. I feel like that's a big part with him.
Right.
Trying to just keep the ball in the park, hopefully put it on the ground. Try to get, because I feel like he's a
pitch
good
to contact.
Yep, he's a good ground ball pitcher.
Right.
Yep. And then that last spot is well deserved to Luke Weaver, I believe, because last year he had a fantastic season.
Oh yeah.
Especially for being a rookie. We're just hoping it's not just like an anomaly thing. Hopefully he's able to perform. It's really hard. You're like, I got to one up myself from last year. You don't necessarily have to do that. Just
do what you do.
Do what you do. Yeah.
There you go.
Here, take the ball, throw strikes.
Right.
That's all you got to do.
And my biggest thing with Weaver is something that impressed me. You see these young pitchers, even whenever Carlos Martinez came up. Carlos Martinez was a big deal whenever he first came up. Something that is uncommon to see in a young pitcher is them to pitch a lot of innings.
Yeah.
Weaver pitched 2 complete games last season. And that's him not really being fully in the rotation. He kind of had to work his way into it. He still had 2 complete games, and that's a big deal for a young pitcher because that means that you're not digging into your bullpen. Your bullpen's still more fresh for the tomorrow's game. And so that's why I like Weaver being in the rotation.
Mm-hmm. And then we also have the 3. There's 3 other guys 4 if you want to count Bud Norris, because he could also be in that spot. But Flaherty, Reyes, and Hudson, all 3 of those could be a possibility if necessary at some point. Yes.
Yep. I look for if Miles Mikolas doesn't do well, he starts off hot and then kind of towards the middle of the first half, he kind of tails off and doesn't do so well. I look for Reyes to fill up his spot in the rotation.
As long as he's healthy.
One eternity later.
Sorry about that, guys. We were recording, and then at 21 minutes, it stopped. The recording stopped. We were basically done with that. All we were saying was that Alex Reyes, as long as he stays healthy, he'd be good to be in that starting rotation, later on in around the All-Star game for Mikolas if
he struggles.
So, yeah, that was all that you guys missed, and hopefully that won't happen again. So what we'll do now is we're going to start talking about the lineup, the lineup itself.
Mm-hmm.
So what the predictions are is Fowler to lead off, Then we have Tommy Pham, Matt Carpenter, Marcell Ozuna.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Jed Jerko.
Mm-hmm.
Then Yadier Molina.
Yep.
Paul DeYoung.
Yep.
Colton Wong.
Yep.
And then the pitcher spot.
Yep.
Yep. Now that's what is predicted by a lot of people. This guy over here doesn't necessarily agree with it, which I don't know if I do either after listening to what he has to say about it. So we're just going to go ahead and pass that mic over to him and let him take over for this lineup.
All right, so let me just say that I think that I like the lineup for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's two players that I feel like are causing it to not be a good lineup. I don't either like the spot where they're hitting, or I don't like them as a hitter. One of those two.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the people that can replace them.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first player is one that many Cardinal fans are not very high on, and that's Dexter Fowler. Dexter Fowler, I feel like whenever you have him in the lineup, you're kind of giving up an out because his batting average is not very high. But, he is fast, so if he does get on base, I understand him being in that leadoff spot for that reason. But I feel like all of Matt Carpenter's value comes from the leadoff spot as well. He has that high on-base percentage. So if we have Dexter Fowler out of the lineup, I would like to see Matt Carpenter as our leadoff guy, then Tommy Pham, and then you're going to say, well, who are you going to put out there to replace him? So what I say is you take Matt Carpenter, who is traditionally at first base, move him to, I believe Dex is going to play right field this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Move him to right field. Matt Carpenter to right field. Or you take Ozuna, who is a really good outfielder, put him in right field, and then put Carpenter in left. Have Jose Martinez play first base, who has limited range, but a really, really good bat. And you have him play first base, and you have Carpenter lead off, then Pham, and then Martinez, then Ozuna. Everything else but after Ozuna is pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Or you take Carpenter out of the lineup, and you keep Dex out and right, and you have Jose Martinez at first base. I think with that lineup, you have a little bit speedier 1-2. But I feel like it's overall better just because of Carpenter's high on-base percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I'm so high on Jose Martinez is he has a high batting average, decent power. He was on track for something like 29 home runs last season. If he would have played a full season, he would have had 29 home runs, which is respectable. And a stat that not many people know about, it's weighted runs created plus. It's basically a weighted batting average. So a home run counts for more points than a single would, for example, with that stat. He had a 411 WRC plus. So you're saying, well, what's that even? Is that good? Is that bad? Well, his WRC plus was higher than one of the best hitters in the major leagues currently, Giancarlo Stanton's last season. So, that's part of the reason why I'm so high on him, And then another really good offensive stat is OPS plus. Now, your average player is 100. Well, against right-handed pitching, Jose Martinez is a 103. Now, against left-handed pitching, now the next highest I've ever seen before is a 165 by Giancarlo Stanton. Against left-handed pitching, Jose Martinez poses a 200-plus OPS plus. So, he's 100% better than your average hitter against left-handed pitching. So that's why I say, at worst, he should be a platoon first baseman, swap out with Matt Carpenter, because Matt Carpenter against left-handed pitching is hitting, 87%. So he's 13% worse than the league average, against left-handed pitching. So
you have to think, any way you're going to do it, the top of the lineup is going to be stacked.
Yes.
Really, any way you can put it in.
I think if they're gonna stick with Carpenter, and Dex being in the same lineup, the best way you could do it is have Dex and then number 2 hit Carpenter, because I feel like his value all of Carpenter's value comes in not really slugging, which is what you kind of look for in your number 3 hitter. He's more of an on base guy. He's gonna get he's gonna get a lot of walks, and he's gonna get a lot of doubles. So I see him being more of a 2 hitter than he would be a 3 hitter. So that's why I'm not so high on the batting lineup.
All right. That was really boring, wasn't it, guys? Nah, it wasn't really that boring, but some of you guys' numbers might be boring, like just spitting out a bunch of statistics to everyone might, I don't know. Anyway, I think it's really interesting. But now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little segment we like to call
Guess That Player. So this week, since we're doing the Cardinals, we're going to have it be a Cardinal player. Next week, whenever we do, whatever team it is that we wind up doing, it'd probably be the Cubs, maybe the Brewers, the Reds, the Pirates. It'll be someone from the team that we're covering. So this player is a first baseman. He is 32 years old, and he's a free agent in 2020.
I'll go ahead and take that and hold it up a little closer just so you guys can see it. First base, 32 years old, and a free agent in 2020. Start thinking. Who could this Cardinal player be?
Okay, here are some of his numbers. 241 batting average, which is below average. 384 on base percentage, though. So that means that he's drawing a lot of walks. And then 23 home runs, which is from a first baseman is subpar.
Yeah.
That's where your power bat's at. First base.
Current Cardinal, 241 batting average, 384 OBP, and 23 home runs.
I'd like to say also that is for 2017 season, not career.
Yes. Yes. All right, now we'll give you guys like about 5 seconds to think of who that could be. Once you have that in your head, go ahead and lock it in. And then whenever we show you the answer, go ahead and leave down in the comments yes or no if you got it right. We're glad to see if you guys were able to figure out who this person was. And Colton, who is this person?
It is Matt Carpenter. Did you get it right?
Yeah, go ahead and put in yes or no in the comments and let us know. Now, guys, what we're going to move on to is, back from break, we're going to go ahead and start off with a question. What should the Cardinals be scared of in the division? Because they do have, like, one of the toughest divisions in all of baseball.
Right.
American League and National League, between, like, 3 teams, basically, including the Cardinals in that division.
So I definitely would say that the 2 biggest threats to the Cardinals in the National League Central would be the Brewers and the Cubs. I think that the Cubs are slightly overhyped. I actually looked at every position, looked at home runs, batting average. The Cardinals, and I also looked at defensive runs saved. The Cardinals, if you just look aside from WAR, which is wins against replacement, WAR can be weighted different ways where it gives more value to a home run than it does, a good glove. If you look at it, every player for the Cardinals, except for our first baseman and our third baseman, which the Cubs have Anthony Rizzo and they have Chris Bryant, every other position, including the entire pitching staff, Cardinals win. The Cardinals pitching staff has a lower ERA than the Cubs pitching staff. Cardinals players have more defensive runs saved, better batting averages on the whole than the Cubs players do. The only 2 positions on the entire field that the Cubs can even argue we have better players than the Cardinals do is first base with Anthony Rizzo and third base with Chris Bryant. And then
a thing that they acquired a pitcher. They acquired a starting pitcher, which they needed to do. They acquired Yu Darvish.
Again, an overhyped player.
Very. He had that one good rookie season with Texas, and then I thought he retired after his rookie season. I had no idea where he went. So yeah, the Cubs got Yu Darvish.
I think Darvish, of the big 3 free agent starting pitchers, Lance Lynn, Jake Arrieta, and Darvish, I think Darvish should have been the last one to sign. He had the worst win percentage. He had the highest ERA of all three. Literally, the only reason he has any value is the hype.
Yep.
So that's why I'm not a huge Darvish person. I think that he's not going to be any better than Jake Arrieta was, and Jake Arrieta left the Cubs from last season to this season. I think, if anything, he's going to be worse than Arrieta was. I think if the Cubs would have signed Lynn or Arrieta, I'd be a little bit more afraid of the Cubs. But Darvish does not scare me.
Yeah. And like the Cubs, the Brewers also needed that starting pitcher, and they did get someone. They did get Matt Albers. Who's that?
Exactly. He's a nobody. So I think that the Brewers' biggest problem, for sure, is their pitching. Now, their outfield is really, really good. It's stacked.
Yeah. They acquired Yelich.
And they have Kane, right?
Lorenzo Kane. Yep.
And so they rival our outfield. They're pretty good. They also have Ryan Braun, who is still performing pretty well.
Yep.
So their outfield's pretty good. But I mean, if you look at, and they also have Thames, who's a great player.
Yeah.
They will compete. However, I just don't see them having the pitching, whether that be bullpen or starting pitching, to really endure a full season. They might score a lot of runs, but it doesn't matter if the other team's scoring a lot of runs too, because your pitching is not good.
Yeah.
So
kind of segueing your way into this, I guess, the year prediction for the Cardinals. Like, where do you think they're going to stack up in their division?
So, I think if everything goes right for the Cardinals, meaning Adam Wainwright, his arm doesn't give up on him, Weaver performs like he did in 2017, Mikolas does what he did in Japan, everything like that, I see a potential World Series, in all honesty. I think even teams like the Yankees, we could compete with them. While the Yankees will probably hit more home runs throughout the duration of the season, I don't see their pitching staff being that good.
Yeah.
So I could see us, really competing for a World Series if all things do go right. Like I said, if our closer is what he needs to be, if our rotation is what it needs to be, I could definitely see that. If it doesn't happen and we have to rely on some of that young pitching talent, I still see us being at worst contending for the wild card and maybe still winning the division.
Yep. What I really have for them is I have them. I don't think they'll be able to win the division. All honesty, I don't think they can win the division. But how they're going to get to the playoffs is with that wild card spot. I think that wild card spot that they can acquire, I feel like that's going to be the way they're going to do it. I just don't think they're going to be able to.
So my question is that I'm posing to you.
Yep.
Who do you think is going to beat the Cardinals in the division then?
I would have to go with the Chicago Cubs.
We just discussed this.
Mm-hmm.
The Cubs do not have the pitching to do it. Lester is about 135 years old.
Yeah.
Dude is farting dust. Okay. Yu Darvish, overhyped. We just discussed this.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at their rotation and you're like, what do we have to fear? We don't have anything to fear. That's my response.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the position players and you have two guys to fear. That's it. So that's why I say, man, you look at every team in the division, the Reds are a joke.
But yeah, the Reds and Pirates, they're not really.
The Pirates got rid of one of their best players.
Yeah, I don't know. They were good for like 3 years ago, and then they went back down.
The Reds are non-existent.
Yeah.
Brewers don't have the pitching.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be able to.
And the Cubs, I think, are in the same boat as the Brewers. I honestly think the Brewers are in better shape than the Cubs.
Really?
I take the Cardinals having it all in the National League Central, then the Brewers, then the Cubs, then the Pirates and the Reds.
As a Cardinal fan, I would love to be able to think like that.
Well, I mean, here's my thing. Do you think any of the other aces of any of the other teams for the National League Central are better than Carlos Martinez?
No.
Okay, so there's one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you think any of the number two guys are better than, let's say, Michael Wacha?
None that I can think of.
To be honest, I don't really know the Reds rotation that well, and I do not know the Pirates rotation that well. However, the fact that I don't know them well, I feel like speaks for itself.
Well, yeah, correct. Yeah.
So that's my big thing.
Yeah.
Your 1 and 2 guy are way better. Your number 2 guy is probably better than most of the aces of those staffs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm saying, man, I'm riding with the Cardinals.
Yeah, I feel like since they got that lineup buffed a little bit, I think that'll help too because last year the Cubs just blew out the Cardinals with their just able to. I don't know. I just felt like they were able to hit the ball a lot better than the Cardinals were able to last year, and I feel like they've always had that little knack, and I don't know why.
And their pitching was decent.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, eventually, Father Time's going to catch up to John Lester. Okay? And they got rid of Arrieta, who was a good pitcher.
Yeah.
And they replaced him. Their solution was to get Yu Darvish, who is a worse pitcher than Arrieta. So to me, that speaks volumes that they're kind of giving up on that starting pitching role for Arrieta. They're filling it up with someone that's worse than him statistically. You look at it, he has less wins. He has a worse win percentage. He has a higher ERA. Any stat that you can put out there, he is worse than Arrieta.
Yep.
So that's why I say, like, man, I'm not scared of the Cubs, and I'm really not that scared. I mean, the other thing that you have to think is the Cubs don't have, John Jay anymore. And John Jay, while he was a former Cardinal, he was pretty decent for the Cardinals. He did really, really well with the Cubs, and now he's a free agent.
Yep.
So, that's another thing that, they're going to have. They don't have that guy anymore.
Yep.
And so I just see their rotation, their position players. Really, the only two people I fear from the Cubs team is Rizzo and Bryant. And then from Milwaukee, I have, 4 guys that I fear. That's why I say, man, edge kind of goes to Milwaukee, if anything.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so because you got Yelich and you got
Braun,
and who's that center fielder?
Kane,
Lorenzo Kane, yeah.
And then you have Thames.
Yep. So, yeah, so your final thought, you got the Cardinals?
I got the Cardinals.
All the way?
I'm saying at least winning the division even if things go wrong, they win the division, or they win the wild card and potentially win the division.
Yeah, because I think they have to make it to the postseason. If they don't make it to the postseason, I consider it a failure. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm a Cardinal fan, and I'm so used to the Cardinals being in the postseason.
Playing in October.
Yep, this would be the 3rd year in a row if they don't make it, and that hasn't happened since the 1990s.
Right.
It's just crazy to think about. It's just we always win in St. Louis. It's
right.
just it's weird to think about, but it's how it is.
Right.
All right, now the last thing we're gonna say. We're going to give our hot takes, our biggest bold predictions for for the Cardinals season this year. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first. I think mine's pretty bold.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I have Tommy Pham winning, getting the NL MVP this year.
Yes, that's a pretty big.
It's a really big prediction. He did really well last year, but that was also comparing it to how people thought he was going to do last year.
Right.
With a batting average above 300, OBP above 4, and a slugging above 5.
Right.
Which is always good.
But I think Tommy Pham, well, this is a big take. I think Tommy Pham is one of the rare players in Major League Baseball that I think could have 30 home runs and 30 steals. He's got the speed. That's the thing that he has that a lot of those guys that can hit home runs just doesn't have.
Yep. He's like that 5-tool player. He can field, too. He's not a bad fielder, too. He's quick around the outfield. That's why we're putting him in center and taking Fowler out of there.
Right.
Because he deserves to be there.
Right. He can move.
Yeah. And I follow him on Instagram. I'm watching all of his
speed
videos.
Training.
Speed training, all of those things. And I'm just hoping he's going to have a great season. And I hope if that happens, I'm going to be really proud of myself if I'm able to get the NL MVP for Tommy Pham. But I feel like he's going to do even better with a guy like Ozuna to help him out there in that lineup. I feel like that'll just...
He's going to see more pitches to hit and stuff like that.
Yep, and I'm really excited for that.
Yeah. So my bold take, so a player that, if you read a lot of websites, they say the Cardinals should try to replace this player. They need to find some solution to this player because they're just not good enough. However, they did have a really good season last season. The player that I say, man, this guy's going to have a really good season this season is Colton Wong. I see Colton Wong. This is my bold prediction. Colton Wong is going to win at least a Golden Glove. And if he hits the ball like he did last season, so pretty good batting average. I think he had a 270 plus batting average. He had like 5 or 6 home runs, not very many home runs. If he hits like that, he might be an all-star as well. So he might be Golden Glove and all-star. If he hits like he did last season, all-star and Gold Glove. And if he just does what he did last season, Gold Glove.
And what you can think about is what other second basemen in the National League, like...
The only other person I feel like you can even argue is Baez from the Cubs.
Yeah.
And the only thing he has over Wong is power.
Yep.
He's not as good defensively. He's not as good batting average-wise.
And with the addition of Jose Oquendo, that could even help Colton Wong even more with
Make
his
him
defensive
sure-handed.
ability.
Make him sure-handed.
Yep, get him better with the balls right in front of him. Like, he can catch anything in the stadium, but it's the ones right in front of him.
It can be 50 feet that way or 50 feet this way.
Yeah.
50 feet behind him, he's going to catch that. But, man, if it's hit right to him, he can't get it.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, man, Oquendo will fix that, and he will be a stellar second baseman.
Yeah. So these are really bold predictions, and it'd be awesome if both of these could actually happen. And it very well could, depending on how the season pans out. But, yeah, I'm really excited for this season, just for all the teams in general, just for baseball to get started up again.
Well, I mean, with the free agent market that's coming up next season, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Because, you know, those guys are going to be working extra hard to get that big payday next season. So.
Yep, and who are some of the people like Mike Trout,
Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, Clayton Kershaw,
Josh Donaldson.
You've got some big names thrown in there. Those are just the 5 that come to my mind right off the top of my head.
Yep.
You know, Adam
Wainwright, who we've been talking about. Yeah.
You know, you got some big names in this free agent market next year. So
yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to even next year. Like, I'm looking forward to this year, but next year with that free agency,
it's almost more exciting.
Yeah. But yeah. So you guys got through it. I hope you guys enjoyed it just as much as we did, because we had a lot of fun doing this.
Oh, yeah. The research for this and everything was super fun. I actually enjoyed this. So.
Yeah. We're actually looking forward to do more episodes like this. We're going to be doing other National League Central Division teams. We're going to be doing the Cubs next time. We came to a conclusion and we're going to do them next.
Cubs next.
Yep, Cubs next, then probably the Brewers, and then
Pirates,
and then Reds. It's probably how we're going to do it, give or take. We might switch it up a little bit. But, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please like it and comment and do all that fun stuff.
Subscribe.
Yeah, don't forget to do that too.
Smash that bell notification button.
This guy's got it.
There you go.
I don't even have to be here anymore. I'll let him do it for me.
It's my channel now.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Yo, I ain't here for the money, I ain't